Welcome to Ascend and Awaken, a life of balance. Let me ask you a simple question, one that quietly shapes most of our conflicts, both inner and outer. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? At first, this may sound like a trick question. Of course we want both. But A Course in Miracles gently reveals something uncomfortable and liberating. In moments of conflict, you usually cannot have both. Today we'll explore what ACIM means by rightness and happiness, why the ego clings so fiercely to being right, and how choosing happiness becomes a doorway to peace, healing, and inner freedom. In everyday life, being right often feels necessary. Being right feels like being justified, being validated, being safe, being respected, being seen. The ego equates rightness with survival. According to A Course in Miracles, the ego believes, if I'm not right, I lose. If I'm not right, I'm wronged. If I'm not right, I'm weak. So the ego fights, quietly or loudly, to maintain its position. But ACIM teaches something radical. The need to be right is the ego's need to protect separation. Rightness keeps score. Rightness draws lines. Rightness says, you're wrong, and I'm separate from you. And separation is the ego's home. ACIM asks us to look honestly, without judgment, at the cost of being right. What happens when you insist on being right? Often, peace disappears. Relationships strain. Resentment grows. Tension lingers. Love withdraws. Even when you win the argument, something feels lost. The Course reminds us the ego may feel victorious, but the heart feels heavy. Being right can cost us intimacy, connection, trust, inner calm. ACIM isn't asking us to deny facts or accept mistreatment. It's asking us to notice something subtler. Rightness is often chosen at the expense of peace. In A Course in Miracles, happiness is not pleasure, comfort, or surface positivity. Happiness is peace, inner alignment, freedom from conflict, remembering our shared innocence, resting in love instead of fear. True happiness, according to ACIM, comes from choosing oneness over separation. Where rightness says, I must defend myself, happiness says, I choose peace instead. Happiness does not require anyone to lose. Happiness does not need an enemy. Happiness does not depend on being correct. It depends on letting go. The ego resists happiness, not because happiness is wrong, but because happiness threatens the ego's existence. The ego asks, if I let this go, who will I be? If I'm not right, am I nothing? If I forgive, will I be taken advantage of? ACIM reassures us, forgiveness is not weakness. It is the undoing of fear. Choosing happiness doesn't mean you approve of harm. It means you refuse to let fear rule your mind. The ego survives on conflict. Peace dissolves it. One of ACIM's most practical ideas is this: would you rather be right or happy? This is not a moral judgment. It's an invitation to awareness. The Course teaches that every moment is a choice between fear or love, ego or Holy Spirit, separation or oneness. Rightness belongs to fear. Happiness belongs to love. You cannot follow both at the same time. This choice appears everywhere. In arguments with loved ones, in resentment toward co-workers, in political or social disagreements, in old stories you replay in your mind, in silent judgments you never voice. Every time you replay a grievance, the ego whispers, see, you were right. ACIM gently asks, and how does that feel? Peace doesn't come by proving the past. It comes when you release it. ACIM speaks of two inner teachers, The ego. The Holy Spirit. The ego teaches judgment. The Holy Spirit teaches reinterpretation. When you choose happiness, you're saying, I'm willing to see this differently. You're not denying what happened. You're releasing its power over your peace. Happiness is not about fixing others, it's about freeing your own mind. When you choose happiness instead of rightness, the body relaxes, the mind softens, defensiveness drops, compassion emerges, clarity returns. You may still speak truth, you may still set boundaries, you may still take action, but the energy is different. You're no longer fighting for identity, you're resting in peace. ACIM reminds us, peace is not found by winning, it is found by remembering who you are. Here's a simple ACIM-inspired pause you can use anytime conflict arises. 1. Stop and breathe. 2. Silently ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? 3. Notice the tension in your body. 4. Say inwardly, I choose peace instead of this. 5. Let the situation soften, even slightly. That's enough. You don't need to force forgiveness. Willingness is enough. A Course in Miracles teaches us that happiness is not something we earn, it's something we allow. Every time you release the need to be right, you loosen the ego's grip. You open space for peace. You remember love. So the question remains, gently, lovingly, rightness or happiness, fear or peace, ego or love. The choice is always available. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this reflection resonated, I invite you to subscribe to Ascend and Awaken for more heart-centered teachings inspired by A Course in Miracles and timeless spiritual wisdom. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where in your life might choosing happiness bring more peace right now? Peace, love, and light to you on your continual spiritual journey.